Hi, I'm Steven with nintendosforsale.com. If you're like me, you've had an NES that probably went out on you, started flashing, and the game wasn't working. Normally the problem is this guy right here. It gets dirty or loose, and the games can't be read because of a bad connection. Today we're going to teach you how to replace that part. We're going to show you how to disassemble the console, replace it, and put it all back together again so it's working like new. And we just want to say that you don't really need to be an expert, you don't have to have any electrical skills to do all this stuff. You can do it with the new part you need and a screwdriver. Don't forget to unplug all the wires from your console before you start working on it. Here's the parts you're going to need for the repair. First, an NES console. Then just the 72 pin connector and a Phillips head screwdriver. Be sure you keep track of your screws through this entire process. First, we're going to take off the screws from the bottom of the NES. There should be 6 of them, 4 in the corners and then 2 in the center. Alright, once you have the screws removed, go ahead and gently remove the bottom and flip it over. And then you want to take off the metal RF shield once you get to the inside of the console. There will be 7 screws here to remove. And once you have the screws removed, go ahead and lift off the RF shield. You may have to wiggle a little bit to get this off. And now we're going to take off the slot loader. There should be 6 screws to remove and 2 screws to remove on the side by the plugs. The 2 silver screws are going to be longer than all the other screws you use, so be sure to set those apart. And these 2 screws can be loosened rather than removed. And when removing the slot loader, notice how I'm slowly applying pressure and wiggling it off. It's a pretty tight fit. And now we're going to remove the pin connector. There's going to be some pressure here, so just be careful and take it slow when you remove this piece. You may have to lift up on the motherboard a little bit and separate it from the bottom piece of metal underneath it. Now when you're putting the new pin connector on, be sure you line up the shorter bottom piece with the pins on the motherboard before you apply pressure to put it back on. Don't push too hard, just take it slow, work your way through it. Now when replacing the slot loader, again you may have to wiggle some to get it back on. Be careful when you're putting it back over the pin connector. Now replace all 6 of those screws on the slot loader. Here's the 2 longer screws for the slot loader. Notice the 2 holes that I put them in. When you screw in the front 2, be careful how tight you make them, because if you make them too tight, the slot loader will not stay down. So make sure you test it before you move on to the next step. Now make sure you tighten the other 2 by the plugs on the console, and now you can replace the RF shield. This step is optional. Some people like to have it back on there, but we found here at Nintendo's for Sale that it really serves no purpose. Now take the lid of the console and place it back on top, and flip it over and replace all 6 of those screws. Now when you're replacing the front screws here, again be careful not to make them too tight, as if they're too tight, the slot loader again won't stay down. Alright, let's test it out with Paperboy. Success! You can find this part, the 72 pin connector, on our website at nintendosforsale.com. And if you have any questions, contact us here. Help@nintendosforsale.com.